You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I believe that Syracuse will have a top 5 ACC scoring offense next season. If you recall, we discussed in that podcast yesterday that it's because they have a lot of players that can score, right? You got Nathan George and Nate Kingz, and you still have JJ Starling, and you still have Donnie Freeman. Those are 4 guys who could very easily average double digits next season. And then you got guys like Sadiq White and Kiyan Anthony off the bench. I don't think that this team is going to have too much trouble scoring. And we also discussed how Syracuse got more athletic, which means they should be able to run the floor better as a unit, and then that'll lead to more fast break points, increasing your overall average. However, notice how there was one area of offense that I left out on the podcast yesterday. Shooting. And that's because Syracuse basketball, I don't think they're going to be a very good outside shooting team this upcoming season because they don't have a lot of outside shooters that are good on the roster. And here's another question for you all. Very similar to what I asked in the previous segment here. Who on the roster is a good defender? Who do you believe on the roster will shoot at least 35% from three-point on a minimum of 1 attempt per game? Who on the roster do you think? Because to me, I think there's only one lock, and we'll get to it in just a moment. For more context, last season, Syracuse had 3 players that shot at least 35% from 3 on 1 attempt or more per game from beyond the arc. And those 3 players were Jair Davis, Lucas Taylor, and Chris Bell. This season, the only player that I am confident will shoot at least 35% on more than 1 attempt per game is Nate Kingz, the transfer from Oregon State, because last season at Oregon State, he shot 45% from 3, or I should say nearly 45% from 3, and he did it on over 4 attempts per game. In fact, I think at the bare minimum expectation for Nate Kingz, and yeah, it's a high expectation, but guess what? He shot nearly 45% from 3 last year. High expectations are going to come with him coming to Syracuse, right? Shoot at least 40% from beyond the arc. That's what this team needs. They need Nate Kingz to at least shoot 40%, which shouldn't be too difficult for him because he shot nearly 45% a year ago from beyond the arc. And going from the WCC to the ACC, the three-point line does not change. Doesn't change. Same distance. Career numbers, though, for everyone else from the three-point line. You ready for this? Starters. Your point guard, Nathan George, 33%. Your shooting guard is JJ Starling, less than 30%. Nate Kingz, we already mentioned as the small forward. Your power forward's Donnie Freeman. Last year, he shot 33%. And then you've got William Kyle at 0%. And then your bench, right? Let's get into the true freshman here. I think Kiyan Anthony has a chance to shoot 35% from 3, but he is a true freshman. So it's a little bit of a question mark if he's going to do that or not. Sadiq White, unlikely. Unlikely that Sadiq White shoots 35% from 3. I'd be very happy, but I'd also be very surprised because I feel like if he were coming to Syracuse and he could immediately hit 35% of his 3-point shots, I don't think he would be a fringe top 30, inside the top 30 on some major recruiting services. I think if he shot, given his defense and his athleticism, if he was already a really good outside shooter, this guy would be top 10, top 5 in the country. But he's not. And it's probably because he's not the greatest outside shooter. So I don't think he's going to come to Syracuse in year 1 and shoot 35% from 3. Luke Fennell, Aaron Womack, maybe they have the potential to shoot at least 35% from 3. But then you get to the next component, which is, are they even going to average 1 attempt per game? Because you still need the playing time in order to be able to do that. So we'll see. Tyler Betsey is 32%. That's what he did last year in his first season at Cincinnati. Ibrahim Suare, the center from Georgia Tech, right? Back up to William Kyle, 0%. And then you got Bryce Zephyr from Montana State, the transfer he likely won't even try 1 attempt per game. But just for context, 29% three-point shooter. So overall, Syracuse basketball a year ago, they shot only 33% from the three-point line, which was 13th in the ACC. So bottom half in the conference. And I don't expect that number to get much higher. In fact, it might even go lower unless Nate Kingz has a truly monster season for Syracuse basketball. He is going to have to carry the three-point shooting for this team next season. But they'll be strong on offense in other ways. Like, I think they'll be pretty good inside the paint. William Kyle is a very good finisher inside. Donnie Freeman is very good from the mid-range. We know that Nate George, he can just score. Same with J.J. Starling. He can score. And you got Nate Kingz who can shoot threes. And also, I should mention with Nate George, excellent distributor. So he's going to put players in the best position to succeed. But as far as just pure shooting, there's one guy who's a really good shooter, and everyone else, prove me wrong. So overall, I think it's one of the big weaknesses on this team this upcoming season.